Kansas City Chiefs, Cleveland Browns. Is there any way that this team can pull off an upset at home this Sunday? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the full Chiefs Browns breakdown. If you've never been here before, you've never seen me before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these every single week for the Thursday night games, the biggest games on Sunday, and Monday Night Football to give you the best statistical information possible for your fantasy teams, as well as your higher or lower projections using coverage data, run scheme metrics, as well as overall logistical information. I want to harp on that because it's important for this Sunday, but giving you the best information possible to make educated picks and predictions for your teams and for your higher or lower projections. So if you're new, you've never been here, make sure you subscribe, join the family. We're on the road to 10K, guys. We're almost there. I appreciate the support so much, especially over the past week. You guys have been absolutely rocking with these, and there's some really good data for this video. Before we get into any of it, though, I want to show you guys where you can get all my picks and make your own, get some bonus cash to do it with right here. So you can click the links below. On my Instagram, all my picks, all my entries, my touchdown scores, all that stuff is on there. So if you're not following my Instagram, that's the number one place to be. Any touchdown score, single, obscure, or fun picks that are less data backed, still a little bit data backed, but less data backed, all on X. It's the same handle at Loeb's Leads, but again, click those links below. And if you want to make picks, you want some bonus cash to do it with, you can join with code LEADS, LEADS, on any or all of these three sites. Sleeper will give you a free half-yard pick as well as 11 free entries if you join with code LEADS. Underdog is going to give you a deposit bonus up to $1,000 if you join with code LEADS. And Better Picks is going to give you a free half completion pick as well as a $200 deposit match if you join with code LEADS. So don't miss out on that stuff. It's really, really nice to get a little bit of bonus cash to make your picks with, especially if you want to watch this game. And you find some good data here because there is some good data here. Let's talk about the outliers in this game. So a couple things on each side, nothing super crazy to write home about, but still good information. On the Kansas City Chiefs side defensively, second fewest rush attempts. So teams are going to have to throw the football more. The Browns throw the ball a lot. We'll talk about their passing up. They throw the ball a lot, especially with Jameis. So don't have to worry about that. But the most tight end yards and receptions allowed. This, like I talked about with the elite statistical information, the logistical information is so important here because it doesn't seem like David Njoku's going to play. So all of a sudden, your big lean with the Chiefs giving up a ton of tight end yards and a ton of tight end receptions just out the window. I don't think David Njoku is going to play. Doesn't seem like he is. Ken Dorsey pretty much said that today. So that's kind of out the window. So we're going to dive really deep into the coverage rates and the types of coverage the Chiefs play. On the other side, though, Browns giving up, listen to this, 8th most wide receiver yards overall, but the second fewest wide receiver receptions. What does that mean? They're giving up big plays over the top. And obviously the Chiefs have a big play guy. We're going to talk about who that is in a minute. I think we all know. But the target rate doesn't love him as much as I would like it to love him. Now, in terms of overall coverage for this Kansas City Chiefs team, 6th most man-to-man, Browns, 4th most man-to-man. Here's what's really interesting about the Chiefs, though. 2nd most middle field open coverages. So in terms of cover 2 man, when that's 2 deep safeties, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, as well as man across the board underneath, no rat player in the middle. You play inside leverage, force everything out and up to your safety help. 3rd most in the league. Teams aren't running a ton of cover 2 man anymore. The Chiefs do. They let people trail wide receivers in coverage. Very, very interesting because Elijah Moore, and we'll talk about the target rates in a minute, eats man-to-man for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But a lot of cover 2 and a lot of cover 4 when they do play zone. Helps with the run fits. They're pretty good against the run. Been struggling recently against the run, oddly enough, but pretty good overall. The Browns aren't great with the run. We'll talk about the attempt numbers in a second here. But on the other side, Browns 4th most man-to-man, 3rd most middle field close. So you're going to see a lot of cover 3 when they play zone and a lot of cover 1 man. We'll talk about the wide receivers against man, but I do want to pull up some pass data for you guys. In terms of overall passing attempts, with Jameis Winston. I want to make sure we pull up the weeks with Jameis Winston that started in week 8. The Cleveland Browns are throwing the football at a ridiculous rate. And we know that in terms of overall attempts, right? 5th most attempts in the NFL. But you look at who's number 1 in the last 5 weeks. Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are throwing the football. They really are. You look at yards a game. Cleveland Browns are number 2, 315.3 yards per game. And the reality is the Chiefs are throwing the football really effectively too. Patrick Mahomes getting more comfortable with DeAndre Hopkins. We'll talk about that in a second. But you turn to passing defense overall, and in terms of yards per game, the Kansas City Chiefs, middle of the pack. Very much middle of the pack, and the same with the Cleveland Browns. So I'm not looking at quarterback yards. I love Jameis. We all love Jameis. I'm not looking at quarterback yards or completions or anything like that in this game. I'm more looking at the players. And very interestingly enough, there are a couple leans that I really like, more on the Browns side, to be honest with you. But we'll start with the Chiefs. Another very important piece of logistical information here. Greg Newsome is on IR. That is their main slot corner, man-to-man slot corner gone. So Cam Mitchell maybe steps in. Maybe we see some Ronnie Hickman. But regardless, second most targets and second most receptions against man-to-man on the Kansas City Chiefs, Xavier Worthy. Now, I don't fully trust Xavier Worthy's yards, and I'm going to pull up the projections for you guys right now so we can see it and we can look at it together. It's hard to trust somebody's yards like that, especially because, Xavier Worthy's not a guy who's going to get 7-8 targets a game. But you can look at longest catch. We'll pull up the game log for Xavier Worthy. Overall yards, it doesn't even look that bad. 38 right now. He's had 38 in 4 straight games. But I want to pull up a Xavier Worthy game log for you guys because we've been making some serious cash on these longest catch and longest rush projections. But you look at Xavier Worthy's recent games. I'll pull this up real quick for you guys. Xavier Worthy's recent games. Look at this. 35-yard catch. This is to start the year, 12 and 10, so a little underwhelming, but 54, 18, 8, 16, not bad, 0, 11, 31. So 4 straight games with a 14-plus reception. But you look at the overall target rate, maybe we should lean into that a little bit more. 4 straight games with 4-plus catches, and that had not happened. What happened once against the Raiders, but that had not happened. His projection for catches this week is 3.5. So for me, against a man-heavy team, I would probably lean Xavier Worthy yards before I lean Xavier Worthy catches. But Xavier Worthy taking the top off the defense looks very good until you look at the slot rate. Like, Kansas City offense, first of all, is not throwing to the slot very much, 25th highest. But the Cleveland defense is the 12th lowest slot rate, and they're the second highest out wide rate. Now, Kansas City, in terms of wide receiver target rate, throws more to the outside than they do to the inside. And that's DeAndre Hopkins. Now, DeAndre Hopkins has more yards per route run against man coverage than Worthy does, but less targets and less receptions. So his projection of 46 receiving yards, he's hit it in 1 of the last 4. And in terms of his time on the Chiefs playing full snaps, he's hit it in 3 of 6. Now, didn't hit it against a really zone-heavy team in Buffalo, hit it against a man-heavy team in Denver. But again, you look like Vegas plays a lot of man, and he had 90 yards against Vegas, but Tampa plays a lot of zone, and he had 86 against Tampa. So you go back and forth. If I had to lean one way here, it would be DeAndre Hopkins yards before anything else. I think the Browns are going to do everything they can to stop Travis Kelce. That's the reality when you get a number 1 on the other side that's not on the outside. The Browns do a pretty good job of containing him. Like, you look at guys like George Pickens who have good games against Cleveland Browns. Cortland Sutton had a big game, but that's one-on-one on the outside. That's DeAndre Hopkins to me. DeAndre Hopkins, 46 yards is too low. That is the number 1 place I'm looking there, especially because, like I said, Cleveland's being targeted on the outside of the second highest rate. Martin Emerson, truthfully, is not playing great football right now. Denzel Ward's very good, but they don't travel corners. It's side to side. So if you get Hopkins one-on-one with Emerson on the outside, and who knows, maybe they move Denzel inside. Maybe Denzel doesn't play on the outside as much. Regardless, they're going to throw the football out wide. The Browns are getting targeted out wide. It's going to be the DeAndre Hopkins show, I think. Now, on the other side, Cleveland offense against man-to-man with Jameis. Most targets, most receptions, and 2+ yards per route run is Elijah Moore. This is what I love the most. Target rate. The Kansas City defense is being targeted in the slot at the highest rate in the NFL, the highest rate. Now, yardage projections for the Cleveland Browns pass catchers are not up yet outside of Jerry Jeudy because Tillman probably going to play but was questionable, getting out of concussion protocol. David Njoku also, again, probably not going to play. I would be shocked if he did, to be honest with you. But I'm going to pull up the Elijah Moore game logs, especially against man-heavy teams, and you can see how much better he is against teams that play a lot of man. So against Denver, they played a ton of man. 14 targets, guys, 111 yards. Pittsburgh is balanced, a lot of cover 3 when they do play zone, but New Orleans a little bit more man. 66 yards there. Baltimore, middle field close, balanced a little bit, but giving up a good amount of pass yards, 85 yards. I go back to the Jacksonville game. This was with Deshaun Watson, but I go back to this game. This was the most man-heavy team the Browns have played all year long. 8 targets, 44 yards. I look at Cincinnati, who plays a lot of man, 41 yards. This, to me at least, is the best lean you can get on the Cleveland Browns because of how much he's being targeted in the slot, how much the Browns are throwing in the slot, 7th highest rate in the NFL with Jameis, and how much the Chiefs are giving up to the slot. And I want to go back to some game logs against for the Kansas City Chiefs because you can see the slot production has been there really all year long for some of these pass catchers, not just wide receivers, like pass catchers against the Chiefs. I go back to the Bowers game. Bauer played a ton of reps in the slot, a ton of reps, 140 yards. But we can go back to some wide receivers. That's probably the better way to go about it. Now, we didn't get to see Ladd McConkey. That stinks. It was tough because that was a big Ladd McConkey game. But you go look now, like Trey Tucker had a big catch. DJ Turner was using the screen game. Brock Bowers ran a good amount of routes from the slot. The slot guy here, Adam Thielen and David Moore, both slot guys, 81-57. Khalil Shakir, the leading receiver on the Buffalo Bills, he's the slot guy there. Vela had 4 for 39, but he scored, so the usage was up there a little bit. You look at the wide receivers in Tampa, Sterling Shepard, most yards, 48. In that game, you remember, Cade Otton, 8 for 77, a touchdown, 11 targets. He also ran a good amount of routes from the slot. You look up a little bit here. We can go back to Bowers. In this game, 5 for 58. And then you can scroll up a little bit more. And it tapers off a little bit, truthfully. But guys like Rashid Shaheed still had 86. McConkey had 5 for 67, touchdown earlier. London and Mooney balanced their routes out from the slots. I don't really want to think too much about that. But Burton had 47. He was the slot guy when they were playing. Gesicki also had an enormous game in week 2, 7 for 91. Decent amount of routes from the slot. Zay had 10 targets. You remember a couple of those screens got called back. The bottom line is they're being targeted in the slot a lot. And that is definitely the way to go. And truthfully, guys, I think the pass game is going to be the way to go. We'll look at some rush numbers really quick here, but the pass game is going to be the way to go. In terms of offense, yards per carry, like you can see Browns second to last in terms of overall attempts. Browns fifth to last. They don't really run the football well, and they don't do it effectively. Kansas City, in terms of overall attempts, you can see the 12th most attempts in terms of yards per carry. 4.04 isn't wildly efficient. Actually, it's not good, but you can look at the rush yards per game, and they're still decently high. They're middle of the pack, 21 and 110.6. Browns run defense, though. We need to talk about that because it's been worse without JOK. Now, in terms of overall yards per carry, I mean, like, I go back and forth on how I feel about the Browns run defense because, again, 4.51 yards per carry in terms of overall rush yards per game, almost in the top 10. But this is holistically, when they had JOK, they were better against the run. They are just, I don't know. Like, I don't love what I've seen from the Cleveland Browns. And you look at explosive run percentage, like 10-plus runs, 14.1%, 15-plus yard runs, second in the league, 20-plus yard runs, second in the league, 30-plus yard runs, tied for first in the league. They give up big explosive runs. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to have enough success, especially if it's going to be raining. They're going to load the box to do that. That's why I think you lean into the pass game, and I'm not even going to touch the run game for the Cleveland Browns. Like, they can't run the football. They don't want to run the football. The Chiefs' run defense is pretty good. I'm not going to touch that. We'll finish with some red zone data, some third down data. Now, overall red zone offense, let me refresh this for you, but you would actually be surprised here, guys. Cleveland is the better red zone offensive team. 13th in the NFL, or really tied for 12th in the NFL in terms of touchdown percentage. Kansas City, 50.98, 25th highest NFL touchdown percentage. Now, I want to pull up the defensive stats so you guys can see that too. But the moral of the story here is that nothing really sticks out in terms of how good or how bad somebody is. Like Cleveland here, middle of the pack, Kansas City a little bit above average in terms of how often teams are scoring touchdowns. But Kansas City offense is like bad in the red zone. And you watch them against Vegas. You watch them against the Chargers. They got to kick field goals. So Matthew Wright, 2+ field goals to me, especially when I don't think the Browns are going to have a ton of success offensively, is definitely the way to lean. I think Kansas City is going to be able to move the football, and they're going to kick multiple field goals. The Steelers are actually pretty good in the red zone last week. That's why I look at Boswell. I'm like, I don't know. Can I really lean into that after last week? It's fair. I get it. But Kansas City's can move the ball, and they're bad in the red zone, guys. They're just like, they're borderline bad. They're borderline bad in the red zone. We will finish looking at third down data because third down data is very important. In terms of opponent conversion percentage, you can see here the Kansas City Chiefs, 18th in the NFL, and the Cleveland Browns 11th in the NFL. So Cleveland's getting off the field. They got a better pass rush than Kansas City. That makes sense, right? But Kansas City will still get after the quarterback. And then in terms of third down offense, number one, baby, Kansas City Chiefs converting more than half of their third downs, which is pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's pretty ridiculous. And then you can go find Cleveland dead last in the NFL. And to me, that is where the difference is. Look, I think Kansas City wins this game. I do think back to when the Browns played the Niners a little bit earlier than this time. Bad weather game, back and forth, banged up teams, and the Browns pulled it out. I want to believe it. I really do, but I think Kansas City has too much of an edge defensively, and I think they're going to be able to run the football at least moderately effectively. So looking at Kansas City players I like, Hopkins. I don't mind Worthy, but I'm going to lean Hopkins before I lean Worthy. And then on the Cleveland Browns offensive side, I mean, Elijah Moore is the guy I'm going to be on for sure, especially if Njoku's out. And then, honestly, Jerry Jeudy still, I think, will have a good game. But Matthew Wright, 2 field goals, I think, is a very good one as well. Let me know what you guys are picking. Let me know what you guys are writing in the comments. If you enjoyed this video as well, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Depending on when you're watching this, Saturday about noon, 12 p.m. Eastern, the full Sunday breakdown will be out. And then Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, the Monday Night Football breakdown will be out. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those. You can turn on notifications if you want to. But God bless you guys. I appreciate you hopping on for this episode. We'll see you next time.